Hello, my name is Ella. I'm a lawyer, and over the years, I've worked with hundreds of seniors who've been pressured, misled, and even bullied over debt. If you're over 60 and worried about money, debt collectors, or keeping up with bills, this message could be life-changing for you. Because here's the truth. Some debts you may think you have to pay are debts you can legally walk away from. But almost no one will tell you this, unless you know where to look. In today's video, I'll walk you through 6 kinds of debts seniors often feel trapped by, but in reality, may not owe at all. Some of these will shock you, and knowing them could save you thousands of dollars in years of unnecessary stress. So stay with me until the end. And while you're here, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Have debt collectors ever threatened or intimidated you? I read every single one. All right, let's get into it. Old credit card debt. That's past the statute of limitations. This is one of the most common traps I see seniors fall into. Imagine this. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you had a credit card with a balance. Life got tough. You faced unexpected medical bills, the loss of a loved one, or you just couldn't keep up with the interest. The account went unpaid. You assumed it was behind you, but suddenly, years later, a collector calls, demanding thousands. They might even threaten lawsuits or say they'll take your benefits. Here's what they don't want you to know. Every state has a time limit on how long a creditor can legally sue you for debt. This is called the statute of limitations. Depending on where you live, it might be 3 years, 6 years, or sometimes longer. But once that time limit is up, the debt becomes time-barred. That means they cannot legally drag you into court or garnish your wages or benefits over it. Now, does the debt still technically exist? Yes, in a sense. But the power to enforce it in court is gone. Here's the dangerous part. If you make a small payment, even $5, or admit the debt over the phone, you can accidentally restart the clock. Collectors know this. They're trained to get you to say just enough so they can sue again. So what should you do if someone calls about old credit card debt? Don't admit anything over the phone. Ask for everything in writing. Check how old the debt really is. If it's past your state's statute of limitations, you can legally refuse to pay and tell them not to contact you again. You are not obligated, and you don't need to live under the shadow of a debt that should have died years ago. Medical debt. That's been written off. Medical bills are one of the biggest financial burdens for seniors. You might go in for surgery, or an emergency visit, or even just routine tests. And weeks later, the avalanche of bills starts. Hospital fees, labs, anesthesia, specialists. Even with insurance, it can add up to thousands. Then before you know it, debt collectors are calling. But here's a secret few people know. When hospitals or clinics believe they can't collect, they often charge off medical debt as a business loss. They might sell it for pennies on the dollar to collectors, or simply write it off for tax purposes. Now here's the critical part. You don't owe a collector anything unless they can prove you legally owe it. And many times, they can't. They don't have the original records. They can't prove you agreed to the amount they're demanding. And in many cases, the debt is already past the statute of limitations anyway. On top of that, nonprofit hospitals are often legally required to offer charity care or financial assistance programs for low-income or retired patients. But they don't advertise this. Many seniors qualify for help they were never told about. So if you're being pressured over medical debt, here's what to do. Request written validation of the debt. Ask for the date it originated. Check whether it's already been written off. Never pay until you know your rights. Medical debt can feel crushing, but remember, A lot of it is built on shaky legal ground. You don't have to fall for their scare tactics. Debt solely in a deceased spouse's name. This one is especially heartbreaking. I've seen too many grieving seniors harassed into paying debts that were never legally theirs. Picture this. You've just lost your spouse. You're overwhelmed, grieving, trying to put the pieces of your life back together. Then the calls start. A collector says your spouse owed $9,000 on a credit card, and now it's your responsibility. They'll use guilt. They'll say, "Don't you want to honor your spouse's memory?" Or they'll threaten damage to your credit. But let me be crystal clear. If a debt was only in your spouse's name, and you did not co-sign or jointly apply, you are not personally responsible for paying it. The creditor can try to collect from your spouse's estate, their savings, property, or inheritance, but they cannot legally demand payment from your income, your pension, or your Social Security. Sadly, many collectors prey on widows and widowers during this vulnerable time. They know you're grieving. They know you're less likely to fight back. So here's what you do. Ask if the debt was only in your spouse's name. If yes, say, "This is not my debt. You must deal with the estate. Do not contact me again." Keep written records of all communication. If they continue harassing you, report them to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or your local equivalent. You've already endured enough. Don't let them pile on more pain. You are not legally or morally responsible for paying debts that don't belong to you. Federal student loans, including Parent Plus loans after disability or death. Here's a debt many seniors never expected to still be carrying into retirement. Student loans. Maybe you went back to school later in life, or maybe you took out Parent Plus loans to help your children through college. Now, decades later, you're in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s, and you're still making monthly payments, often on a fixed income. But here's what many seniors don't know. Federal student loans can be discharged under certain conditions. If the borrower becomes totally and permanently disabled, the debt can be wiped out. If you took out a Parent Plus loan and the student you borrowed for passes away, the loan can be discharged. And if you pass away, your family is not responsible. Federal student loans die with you. This applies to most federal loans: direct subsidized, direct unsubsidized, Parent Plus, Grad Plus, even consolidation loans. The problem? Many seniors are never told about these options. Loan servicers rarely advertise them, and some try to make the paperwork so confusing that people give up. Here's the truth. If you're permanently disabled, or even if you're receiving Social Security disability benefits, you may qualify for a total and permanent disability, TPD, discharge. You can apply with documentation from Social Security, from Veterans Affairs, or from a physician certification. It's not automatic. You have to apply. But once approved, your student loan balance disappears. So if you're struggling with federal student loan payments in retirement, here's what you do. Ask your servicer about the TPD discharge program. Gather the required paperwork, SSA, notice, VA documentation, or doctor certification. Submit the application and follow up until it's processed. I've seen seniors literally cry with relief when their student loan burden was finally erased. Don't let ignorance or a servicer's silence rob you of that freedom. Debts that were forgiven in bankruptcy. But collectors still chase. Now, let's talk about bankruptcy, because this is an area where I've seen a lot of abuse. If you filed for bankruptcy, especially Chapter 7, which many older adults do, then certain debts are legally discharged. That means they are erased. They no longer exist in the eyes of the law. This often includes credit card balances, personal loans, medical bills, utility bills, past due rent. But here's the outrageous part. Even after a debt has been officially discharged, some collectors will still try to make you pay. They'll call. They'll send letters. They'll act like the bankruptcy never happened. Why? Because they know many seniors aren't sure what discharge really means. They're counting on your confusion. But here's the truth. Once a debt is discharged in bankruptcy, you are no longer legally responsible for it. Collectors cannot ask you for it. They cannot harass you. And if they do, they are violating federal bankruptcy law. This protection is called the discharge injunction. And if a collector breaks it, you can report them. And in some cases, even sue. So if you filed bankruptcy in the past and you're getting calls about old debts, here's what you do. Pull your bankruptcy paperwork. Confirm that the debt in question was listed in your filing. If it was, tell the collector, this debt was discharged in bankruptcy. Contacting me is a violation of federal law. Keep records, and if the harassment continues, report them. I can't stress this enough. You already went through the difficult decision of filing bankruptcy. You already faced that hardship and started fresh. Don't let shady collectors drag you back into paying debts that the court already wiped away. Small balances that cost more to collect than they're worth. Now let's look at a slightly different category. Small debts that are simply not worth a collector's time. We're talking about debts under $100, or maybe a few hundred, depending on the situation. Things like a forgotten utility bill from years ago, a small cell phone cancellation fee, a gym membership from 5 years back, an old medical copay you never even got a bill for. Collectors run on math. If it costs them more to sue you than they stand to gain, they usually won't bother. For example, a $74 bill from 2016, taking you to court over that would cost them far more than they could ever recover. Now, this doesn't mean the debt magically disappears, but it does mean you're unlikely to face legal action. More often than not, they'll sell the debt again and again until someone eventually writes it off. The key here is not to panic. I've had seniors in tears over a $60 balance, terrified they'd lose their pension. But the truth is, most companies won't take a senior on fixed income to court over a tiny debt. And remember, in many cases, your income, like Social Security, disability, or pensions, is protected from garnishment anyway. So if you're contacted about a small balance, ask for proof in writing. Check whether it's past the statute of limitations. Don't let it dominate your peace of mind. These collectors rely on fear, not legal power. Once you know your rights, you can sleep easy, even if they keep sending letters. Those are the 6 categories of debt seniors often don't actually have to pay. So let's step back for a moment. We've covered 6 different kinds of debt that seniors often feel trapped by. But in reality, many of these debts can't legally be collected from you. Old credit card balances that are past the statute of limitations. Medical debts that were written off or sold for pennies on the dollar. Debts held only in a deceased spouse's name. Federal student loans that can be discharged after disability or death. Debts already wiped out in bankruptcy. Small balances that cost more to chase than they're worth. Now, here's the big takeaway. Debt collectors rely on fear and misinformation. They want you to believe you have no choice but to pay. But once you understand your rights, the power shifts. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean every single debt goes away. If you co-signed on a loan, if you're within the statute of limitations, or if the debt is legally valid, you may still be responsible. But far too often, I see seniors bullied into paying debts that legally don't belong to them anymore. That's why knowledge is your greatest protection. Here are the 3 golden rules I always tell my clients. Never admit to a debt over the phone. Even a few words can restart the statute of limitations. Always demand proof in writing. If a collector can't prove it, you don't owe it. Know your protections. Social Security, pensions, disability income. These are often shielded by law from garnishment. The goal here is not to ignore your responsibilities. It's to make sure you aren't paying money you don't actually owe. Money that should be staying in your pocket to support you in retirement. Now, if you've been dealing with these kinds of calls, I want you to remember something important. You are not alone. Millions of seniors face the same challenges, and the system is designed to keep you confused. But today, you've taken a step that many never take. You've learned the truth, and that truth can save you from years of stress and thousands of wasted dollars. So here's what I'd love for you to do. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button so more seniors can see it. Subscribe, because every week I share practical legal advice that helps older adults protect themselves financially. And in the comments below, tell me your story. Have debt collectors ever tried to scare you into paying? What did they say? I promise you, when you share, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping others realize they're not alone. One last thing. Don't ever let fear or intimidation make your financial decisions for you. Collectors are trained to pressure, but you have the law on your side. You worked hard your whole life, and you deserve to spend your retirement with peace of mind, not sleepless nights over debts that aren't even legally yours. So stay strong, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.